with the launch of Diablo 4 just around the corner, I think it's a good idea to go back and reflect on the 3 opportunities Blizzard gave us to play Diablo 4 ahead of the release, and just kind of go through and figure out what we're going to play as our main class for the initial playthrough. I played the Barbarian through the first beta, so this is the open beta that was available to people who pre-purchased, and I came away feeling really good about the Barbarian. It felt powerful, it wasn't boring to play, and you really did kind of feel like you were this badass like melee warrior going around and wrecking things. So for the second beta, they made some additional characters available, one of which was the Druid, and I decided to try out the Druid for the second beta, and I really came away just underwhelmed with the Druid during the second open beta. You know, I don't know if this was, you know, the skills I chose, the gear that I had, or what the reason for it, but it just seemed that I wasn't doing a lot of damage, and you know, I had low health, I had low spirit, and I had low spirit regen, so it seems like it took me a long time to get back into the fight, and when I was in a fight, I was ineffective. And that was a bit discouraging, almost to the point where I was going to probably play like Necro or something like that for the Server Slam, which was the third opportunity Blizzard gave us to play. But I decided to give the Druid another shot during the Server Slam and see if I can correct the mistakes that I made for the second beta. Now for the second beta, which was the first time that I played the Druid, I was attempting to go for a more tanky style build, so like based around the Werebear, being able to kind of just wade into a fight and wreck things. And that just really didn't work out for me. So I decided to go more with almost a shaman type character. So basing it around some of the storm spells, but I wanted it to be something where I could be a little bit more aggressive, and then I didn't have to shy away from fights. So I kind of embrace like the ebb and flow of the storm, like the building up of electricity and like the discharge of electricity between the skills that I picked. So I ended up going with the skills Storm Strike, Lightning Storm, Blood Howl, Poison Creeper, Hurricane for what I was able to spend points on. So for the open beta, you were limited to level 20, so that means you got 20 skill points. So you really couldn't dive too deep into this tree, but I think I was able to kind of come up with something that actually worked. And I'll go over kind of why I picked the skills that I did. So I went with Storm Strike. So the Storm Strike is a basic chain lightning attack, hits up to 3 enemies. It also generates 14 spirit, so it's your primary generator ability. I spec'd into Fierce Storm Strike, which gives a debuff, a vulnerable debuff to enemies that it hits. With Lightning Storm is a channeled AoE attack. It costs 15 spirit per strike, but it builds up to 5 strikes the more you're able to channel it. Going through with this one, what I did like about it is that if you were to kind of hold that channel, it does a lot of damage. It feels pretty powerful, so I did like that one. Blood Howl, I needed that just in case, you know, as you're going through and channeling, you're being hit by enemies. So I spec'd into Blood Howl to get that heal for 20%, and then I went to Innate Blood Howl, which also generates 20 spirit when you cast Blood Howl. So for me, this was kind of like your first level panic, right? You're getting low on life, or you've been hit, you've had a crit against you, you can hit Blood Howl, regain some of that life, you can stay in the fight a little bit longer. You also get some spirit, so you can cast some additional spells, which, again, for me, some of the feedback that I had from the first beta is that the Druid really, to me at least, it really struggled to maintain that spirit. I spec'd Poison Creeper, and this is a passive area effect, not area effect, but it's a passive poison against a random enemy that's around you. Its activation, so its active ability is it immobilizes all the enemies around you and does like 99% damage over 2 seconds. So for me, it's really effective in going through and saying, okay, I'm in a fight, I've got this thing that I need to channel, so I don't want enemies to be able to move into or out of it. So go in, hit Poison Creeper, they get hit with that poison damage. They're also stuck in the Lightning Storm. So I spec'd into Hurricane. It's an AoE attack that does 97 damage over 8 seconds. I also went with the Enhanced Savage Hurricane, which is a 20% damage reduction. And that's important for me because I'm wading into these fights. I don't want the enemies to move, so there's sometimes if I've cast Poison Creeper, they're stuck right next to me within damage range. And if I've cast Savage Hurricane with the 20% damage reduction, it mitigates some of the damage that's actually coming against me. So again, they're stuck in the Poison Creeper, the poison damage with the Hurricane damage at the same time, as well as they're suffering through the channeled Lightning Storm as well. And I think this is kind of, again, really kind of embracing into, you start the fight, you jump into a fight, you spend all your mana as much as possible, and then you're doing your primary generator, which in this case is Storm Strike, to generate that mana back up again, and then you're doing it again. So this is the cycle, this is the rotation that I'm kind of going through. And again, you're kind of stuck at those 20 points. What's also happened is that as you're leveling, you're getting gear that gives you access to potentially other talents. For me, one of those talents was actually Trample. And I think for me, getting access to Trample as part of this build, as part of the beta, really made this playthrough fun, because now I'm unstoppable and I can go directly into the middle of a pack of mobs, do my Poison Creeper, cast Hurricane, channel Lightning Storm, and then all at the same time again, Storm Strike to generate my mana back up. And if I need to, I can Blood Howl to get some of my life back. And if things get truly bad, once Trample's off cooldown, I can trample out of the pack of mobs as well. So I can jump in, I can jump out. So Trample I really see as kind of like my go-to get into trouble button and my go-to get out of trouble button. And I think that's actually a pretty effective build for just this open beta. This is obviously a bit different from when the full game comes out, because you're not going to have the limitation of just the 20 skill points, so you can actually look at getting some of these skills elsewhere. I think for my playthrough here, again, going into Fear Storm Strike to get that vulnerable debuff, there are other areas in the tree where you can get that. So, I don't think those stack. And again, I'm not sure. I don't think they stack. And if they don't, there's no reason to pick up the Fear Storm Strike when I can get that later on down the tree, and kind of go through things. And the way that I'm approaching this particular build is that this is going to be a solo PvE build. There's not going to be much group adventuring for me for this particular playthrough. There may be some smaller, if I choose to join a guild, there may be some smaller guild events that I participate in. But nothing too major. So this build is going to be something that's going to be fun for me to play, not necessarily something that's been, min-maxed to make it, in-game ready to play through. As long as I can finish the game, I think I'll be pretty happy with it. So this video that's been playing behind it is kind of, again, going through and using this build and actually playing with it. And I think for the most part, it works pretty well. There are still some times where I am struggling with Little Spirit, and that's especially when my Blood Howl's still on cooldown, and there's not a lot of enemies around me. I have to kind of run around and find something to hit so I can generate my spirit back up, so I can get it kind of back into the fight. And I've got no ability to generate spirit outside of a fight, so it does kind of satisfy one of the goals that I was trying to do, which is give me something where I can play a little bit more aggressively. And you certainly do have to play aggressively with this particular build to keep your spirit up. So you're constantly running into a fight, and if you're running away from a fight, it's not really giving you anything other than an opportunity to hit a potion. But again, if you're at full life, in order to be able to do anything, you need to go back into the fight in order to start casting spells again, because you've got no mana at this point. So kind of playing around with it, because I haven't gone through many of the build generators, so I want to kind of figure this out as I go. So there's a lot of different community builds that are out there. I haven't really looked at many of those guides. I've watched maybe 1 or 2 videos, but I'm not really taking any of that advice, because again, I want to figure out something that works for me, not something that's just kind of the standard build that's out there. So Blizzard has gone through and they've made some pretty strong promises regarding just ensuring that you can play the game your way, that you're not stuck with one or two viable builds. And if that's true, then that aligns very much with how I want to play the game, which is, again, just, whatever I feel like playing, whatever's actually working for me, versus, whatever I need to be, hardcore server first or whatever. That's not really my bag. But it will be interesting to kind of see kind of where I land and how that fits into what other people have picked. But yeah, so this is a video of Dead Man's Dredge Dungeon. It's playing in the background here, and we're going to let this one play out to the end. But all in all, the Server Sam was a really good opportunity to revisit the Druid class, and I do think that I was able to kind of fix some of the mistakes that I made. I did change the playstyle quite a bit from what I intended, but I do like this new build, or at least where this is heading. Obviously things will have to change, or things will change once you have access to the full tree, you have access to the full gear that drops in the game. So it'll be interesting where it ends up. But all in all, just a little bit more of a really in-close aggressive spell casting druid. Basically like the shaman style character from Warcraft. The not even necessarily the elemental shaman, but more so like the enhancement shaman, which is really built on getting in close and doing that melee damage, but it's backed up or supplemented by the spells that are in place. So we'll try that out. I do want to spend some more time kind of figure out how to get that werebear build working, to see if I can't get that to a state where it's actually playable or fun to play, because I do think that's, in the end, like if I were to do a druid full time, that's probably where I want to end up, is with that that classic shape-shifting animal, shape-shifting druid class, with the shaman style druid as like maybe a secondary or a backup off character. But thanks for watching. Bye everyone.